I'd also like to talk a little bit about the idea of how do we measure what is happening in terms of learning and student success while we're teaching online. I've such a strong sense across our campus of the integrity and excellence that everyone seems to share in terms of the quality of teaching and learning. And I think the question that has come up very frequently for me is accountability. How do I know during these couple of weeks that students are doing this work? And there are all sorts of technology that are available to us to Blackboard. What I use most frequently in my all online courses is going into Gradebook and checking the last time students were in the course. So if a student says to me, "Oh, Dr. Slade, I'm sure I completed that yesterday," I can say, "Actually, you haven't logged into this Blackboard class since Sunday night." And so everything's dated in Blackboard. So when students say, "I'm sure I turned it in yesterday morning," you can read that it was submitted at 7:04 p.m. So there are those kinds of contexts in Blackboard that help us in accountability, but I think there's some other things that we can do as well. So I'm going to share some of those ideas of just measuring our learning outcomes while we are in this online format. The first thing I'm going to share, probably the most common pedagogy used today in terms of student accountability for readings, are critical and guided readings. So, for example, here's a colleague who teaches in a course where the students spend half the time in the field and half the time in class. And when they're not in the field, she uses the Blackboard discussion to have share for students to share what they are reading. She found that some of the discussion was weak, and she wasn't really sure if it was students not being able to use the discussion board correctly or not um, reading not completing the readings or not reading at the level of depth. So there are many of these templates available. I am happy to share them as well as my colleagues. Many of them are PDF writable, so you can actually post them in Blackboard. Students download them, they type right in them and reload it into Blackboard so that you can read and comment. So this particular guided reading, it asks students to, in 3 statements, to tell you what is the most significant aspects of what they were supposed to get out of the assigned reading, talk a little bit about the new learning that it added for them, and then 3 types of connections that they can make between the reading and research, practice, and their own experience. And then I like this one because it finishes with, "And what questions do you still have?" When you're in an online environment, the students aren't going to be waiting after class or outside of our offices to ask those questions. So here you will know that at the end of that reading, there is a student perhaps struggling with some aspect of what they were supposed to know, understand, or be able to do. And there are, like I said, many of these templates, and we'd be happy to share them with you. Our email is facet, FACET, at townsend.edu.